Realtors, this dude sold one house for $60,000 in his first 6 months, and now he's number one in the entire country for new agents at eXp. Are you kidding me? My guy, Landen Bar, is only 22 years old and already outworking most full-grown adults in this industry. We're talking 68 closings in a single year, small town, Northern Ohio, so not some high-volume metro market, and he still found time to get married, remodel a house, honeymoon in Hawaii, and dominate every room that he walks into. He built this thing from the ground up with his dad and brother, turned flex leads into a conversion machine, and now he's building a legacy team before most agents have even figured out their CRM login. And if you're still sitting here thinking maybe you don't have the time, the market, or the magic script, well, this episode is gonna wreck those excuses. So grab your coffee, close your 14 open browser tabs, and lock in. And yo, if you're a real estate agent and you're tired of feeling like you're building your business all by yourself, then hit that link in the pinned comment. Join us at Carbon Collective and get access to everything Landon and I use. We're talking Mike Sherrard's Social Agent Academy, Louis Galt's time-saving, predictable productions training, Jeremy Kane's organic lead gen blueprint, and my own Agent Prompt University and Apex Elite AI implementation system. You're gonna get access to it all when you partner with us. So drop Carbon in the comments or hit the pinned link and let's run it. All right, what's up, Landon? Welcome to the Apex Elite AI podcast. Super pumped to have you on, man, because you've been making waves ever since you joined us over here at eXp and in the Carbon Collective. So I'm excited to jam out and just kind of find out about a little bit about like how you got started, how you ended up in this crazy industry we're in. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the peeps and start from the beginning, man. Like what was your early life like, and how'd you end up in this crazy ass industry?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. So I want to start. I graduated when I was 17. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial mindset. That was kind of how my family was. All growing up, everybody owned their own businesses. So I knew I wanted to own my own business, and I knew I wanted to own real estate. So that was all I knew. And at the time, my dad said, "Why don't you get your real estate license?" So that's what I did. So when I was 17, graduated high school, got my real estate license, and we just went from there. So my first 6 months as an agent, I sold one house for $60,000. So I think I lost money, in my first year.
Right.
From there on out, though, my dad and I were both licensed agents, and we said, we need to make a change. So we moved over to a Zillow partnership brokerage. That was our story after about 6 months of being licensed. And what they did was they taught us everything we needed to know about converting online leads. And this was specifically Zillow leads. Now, everybody has their own niche. And in my opinion, I think you have to do what works for you, and
right.
You have to be consistent day in and day out. Everybody has a different thing. You and I, we have different, roles and how we get leads.
Right.
But I started off personally with a Zillow Flex brokerage is what it was called. So they taught us everything. And that year, we sold over 107 houses in a year.
Nice.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. That is just between you and your dad, right?
Yeah, 107. So by the end of the year, though, we just started getting curious, looking out, branching out with brokerages and things of that nature. And I said, Dad, I think there's better opportunities out there. Now that we have this knowledge of how to convert online leads, and you and I know there's a ton into that to really make that work.
Yep.
But we decided to look and branch out. So we came across eXp Realty, and we actually watched Mike Sherrard's YouTube videos, which we love. And Dad and I ended up stumbling on Jeremy Kane, the Wolf Pack, and that's kind of how we got here.
Cool. So tell everybody what area you're in.
Yeah, so I'm in Northern Ohio. We have a team, and so far this year I've sold 68 houses, got married as well, and remodeled a house. So it's been a super busy year, and now we're ready to put our heads down and kind of dial into this whole Asian attraction. And just, I think I'm personally in more of a personal development stage here. I just want to grow.
Nice, dude. Nice. Yeah. And then doing business in Northern Ohio. So you're in a smaller town too, right?
Super small town. Yeah. So around here, we just have little towns around. I think Fremont has 19,000 people. That's kind of where, we grew up. And then there's little towns around there with less and less of a population. So it's not like we're in a big city and we were able to do it, and there's not that many people around.
Dude, 107 houses in a small
Yeah.
town in 1 year is absolutely nuts, dude.
Yeah.
And there's probably people going, oh, well, yeah, he was getting Zillow leads, but there's still the whole conversion factor, like you said there.
Right.
If you don't know how to convert a lead, then it doesn't matter how many leads come in. So I think that's pretty damn amazing. And one thing too, also is, you're now number one in the USA for new agents joining eXp Realty, which is huge, dude, because there's 90,000 agents over here. Not
Right.
all of them are new to eXp, but there's thousands and thousands of new agents. And to find yourself at the top of that list, how'd that feel, man?
I woke up a couple days ago, really, and you texted me. I had no idea because I'm just keeping my head down and selling houses. But when I saw that, yeah, I'm definitely very thankful that God has blessed us with this opportunity. So
Yeah, that's cool, man. And I love that you grew up in an entrepreneurial environment. That's one thing I've tried to do for my kids. I grew
yeah,
up in an environment where it was more like, hey, go find a good job. Someday you'll get a pension and everything will be okay. And when
right.
I decided to become an entrepreneur, because unlike you, I didn't graduate high school.
Oh,
And the fact that you did at 17 says a lot too, right? Like
sure.
graduating high school early is not an easy feat. So you must have a pretty good brain in between those years there. Um,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. Tell us kind of about what was that like in high school? Like, were you the popular kid or were you just kind of nosing the book? Let's get this over with.
Well, there's not that many people in our high school to begin with, but I played basketball. I was, the homecoming king and all of that, but we didn't have many people in there. But I think, just talking with everybody, everybody knew that I was more of an entrepreneurial spirit, per se. And I think it's amazing talking to people, the two different mindsets. They're just completely different. And in this industry, you have to have the right mindset when you're getting into it. Because if
Yes.
you have a 9 to 5 mindset when you first get licensed as a new agent, you couldn't be more wrong. That's
Right.
just not how it works. Eventually we can dictate a little bit about our time, but at the beginning you just have to put your head down and go. But yeah, that was a little bit about my high school, area. We just, played sports and made a lot of connections in high school.
Cool. Yeah. Typical Midwestern life, right?
It was, yeah.
That's cool, man. And then watching your dad as a young kid be an entrepreneur as well. And then you said your mom was also an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, and my grandparents as well. They actually
Nice.
were speakers. Like they would speak in front of, I think they spoke in front of 100,000 people one time
Holy
in,
crap.
in a dome. Yeah, so that's just the atmosphere that I grew up in. So ever since I was young, they taught me to think differently, and I'm so thankful that they did because I think it's huge day in and day out with my business.
Nice. Yeah. Dude, it's the difference between like one of my favorite sayings is, easy work, hard life, right? Hard work, easy life. And
Yeah,
I think that that's kind of the mindset that you have to have with an entrepreneur. And I had to adapt to that. Right? Like I came from, well, I always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. Like I was in a band and that's basically owning your own business and a
right.
little bit more partying than business.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
But yeah, it was a shift that I had to make. And then when I joined into real estate, like you, I didn't get my first deal until 7 months in.
Okay,
And
yeah,
it was difficult. I had a lot of naysayers, a lot of people telling me like, "Hey, you should probably just go get a regular job."
right.
And I had no college, no high school diploma, so I'm like, dude, what am I gonna do? Like work the front desk at a hotel somewhere? Like, and no offense to anybody that does that, but like, dude, that's not gonna pay the bills for what I want to do in life, you know?
Sure.
So I had no choice. And when I decided on real estate, it was like, all right, this is it. It has to work or it's not gonna work at all. So with you and that entrepreneurial mindset and just wanting to own real estate, as you mentioned, was that kind of the guiding factor for you to get your license and become a practicing realtor to make
Yeah.
that part easier?
Yeah, at first I wanted to just own real estate, but then I opened up to the business. It was funny. As soon as I just getting licensed, as soon as I actually passed, when I started selling, at first I didn't even know that there was a buying agent and a listing agent. I didn't, you don't even know what's going on. But then when I saw the real side of real estate, I'm a competitive person and I wanted to win,
Yeah.
and thinking about other people that I'm competing with day in and day out, I just want to win. But I think at the same time, we have to understand that that is our team as well. We are on the same side in a way. We're all trying to do the same thing and get the same thing done for our clients.
Right. Yeah, and that's a huge issue in our industry too. And I love that you say you're
It is.
competitive, but you still understand the partnership aspect of it. Because a
Right.
lot of agents are like, yeah, if I go under contract on a deal, I'm going to take these guys to the cleaner and I'm going to get everything for my client and none of them. And then that really makes life in real estate a lot harder. I see a lot of agents that drop out of the industry because they have the wrong mindset. They have the wrong approach to it. And it seems like you kind of figured that out early on. Now, was your dad was already in real estate when you got your license. So was he your
So
mentor?
he actually got it like 3 months before I did. I failed. I didn't fail my test. My Wi-Fi went out, so I had to wait a couple extra months. But we started the same exact time, which
Nice.
is pretty cool. So we've been in the same journey from the start, and we've
That's
gotten to
cool.
share a lot of these same experiences, and it's super fun to win together in an industry that is so difficult.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And what's it like working with your dad? Like,
It's cool. Yeah.
you guys get along
Well,
really well?
yeah, we do. It's cool because, he can show a house if I'm not available and vice versa. And I think 6 months ago, my younger brother just got his license. So we're really forming a whole team around here.
Dude, that's sweet. Yeah, the Landon
It's,
brother or the Bar brothers, right?
it's the bar team, baby.
The
So,
Bar
yeah,
team.
that's something we're starting. And, you don't know what you don't know. And that's why we're super appreciative that we joined EXP and we joined this group because there's so much more to real estate that you don't even know if you don't have your eyes open.
Right. Yeah. And I think you guys did a really good thing too by getting involved on the Zillow Flex right out the gate.
Hmm.
Because like you had said, you did that first deal for $60,000 in 6 months, and you probably lost money on that.
Yeah.
And that can be very difficult for people. And I kind of ended up falling into the same pattern as well. I wasn't getting any deals done. My sphere wasn't big, and those that were in it weren't buying houses, at least not for me. I was known as the crazy guitar player, musician guy.
Yeah.
So it was hard to get people to take me seriously on that. So I ended up joining a Zillow team. And
Mm.
that got me a lot of past clients very fast.
Sure.
And that was great. Plus, they did have a lot of training and stuff. So when you guys first got onto Zillow, you said that they kind of really helped you through that conversion side. Tell me a little bit more about that and kind of what that was like for you guys.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not the most attractive part about real estate, and you'll hear it, everyone's heard it hundreds of times, but it's the basics. You have to follow up, you have to do the things that you don't like to do, and you have to do it on a daily basis. So, when I first heard the numbers of, hey, you need to follow up with the lead right after you get it this many times per week, and I thought, wow, that seems a little bit crazy. But when I started doing it, when I really started following up with my clients on a daily basis, I realized that, wow, this is how the industry works. So what I would do is I would go into my CRM every single day, and at first it was small, but it started building into a couple hundred people, and I would go through the whole thing every single day. And when I did that, I had a 15% conversion rate, which is like, it was actually the top conversion rate in the entire state of Ohio.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is just once again, putting your head down and manually following up is great when you listen to your training and using some AI, implementing it into that. I think that's great. And I think you have to use both
Yep.
because I also think just putting the human element into following up and speaking with people and actually caring about them and forming relationships is super important. My old broker, what he taught me, and he was a great mentor. he sold over 365 houses in a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and what he taught me and what he taught us is when you build relationships and focus on just relationships, the money will come. Instead of having that commission breath, or that transaction fever, just like talk to these people. It's a real life situation that they're in. Help
Right.
them when you're in the home. Point out the issues that you see with the home. I
Yes.
think I found, when you're in a home and you meet a stranger for the first time, the best way to build trust is to point out issues with the house, because then they think, wait a minute, they're not trying to sell me a house. They actually care about me. They actually want to help. And that was one of my secrets I found is one of the best ways to build trust when you go from, following up to getting that appointment set, which is also gold. A lot of people say you have to focus on the funnel. So, focus on what is my next step. When I get this call, when I get this new call, what is my goal? We're
Right.
not thinking about closing. That could be years down the road. My goal is to stay in touch with them right off the get go.
Yep.
And my goal is to set an appointment if I can.
100%, dude. And I think that's where a lot of newer agents especially kind of drop the ball on that is we don't want, like you said, like when they tell you how many times you got to follow up with a lead, you almost feel like, oh my gosh, that's like clinger style. Like seems a little obsessive and probably going to turn people off. But the reality is that these people that are buying and selling real estate, especially these first time home buyers and stuff like that, they have no idea what to do. And I see so many times where real estate agents will get a lead that is ready to rock, and then they say, all right, I'm going to send you some homes. Let me know when you want to go see them. And then they drop off. And
Yes.
like, could you imagine like the feeling as a buyer who doesn't know anything about the industry, who's expecting you to guide and consult them, to sending them a couple of homes a week and then never calling them back to ask them, if they would like to actually go see the home, or being proactive and even sending them homes? That was one of the big things when I was on the Zillow team is our team lead was like, hey, you need to send these guys at least 3 homes every week minimum and say, hey, I found these homes. We should go look at them. Because if you just leave it up to the property alerts that are getting sent out via the MLS or your IDX website, like they're not going to choose anything. They're waiting to be led.
100%. You can't go wrong with sending a client a house,
Right.
because either way, if they like the house, you're going to have an appointment set. And if they don't like it, you can say, great, what would you like me to kind of dial in? What do you like? What do you not like about this house that I sent you, so that we can kind of get to the next step? So I think it's what you're saying is very important. And a lot of these new leads that come in, they have multiple agents contacting them,
Facts.
right? You have to, push through that. Because like you said, what are there? At least 5 agents on average
Yep.
that contact a lead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So it's just very important to follow up. And as much as you hear that, and it's not the most beautiful thing, it is where the gold is. That is how you win.
Yeah.
Period. So one mindset that I did for myself is I just pretended in my head that every single phone call, every single lead that I get is going to be a transaction, that they are going to buy a house. It's just, is it going to be with me or is it going to be with somebody else?
Dude, that's great. I love that. And that's the key, right? We're having assumptive mindsets there where we're assuming that, hey, these people are ready to go. They didn't reach out because they just wanted to feel the water and dip their toes in. They're ready to go. And you have to be that advisor and that consultant on there. So that cringe feeling of, oh, am I following up too much? Like, no. I've never ever a lot of the times it's an average of 7 times that you try to call and enter that lead before they actually answer the phone for you.
Right.
And not one time have they ever been like, dude, you call me too much. Right? It's usually like, oh, hey, Adam, so sorry I haven't answered any of your calls or texts. I've just been super busy, but thanks for
Right.
staying in touch. This is what we're looking for. And then you can start to build that rapport. So which is awesome that you realized early on too the value of a CRM.
100%. You
Right?
have to. If you don't have a good CRM and you don't have a system in place with that CRM, I strongly suggest that you do and you always build on it. I'm still learning. I'm still building on it. But it's probably the most important side of real estate. And the
Yep.
other myth is, a lot of people have the excuse, I need more leads. And a lot of times that's not true, because you have a bucket full of water, and that's the leads. But when you have all of those holes in the water, you can fill that bucket up as much as you want. Spend, monthly money if that's what you do on those leads. But I would rather personally spend $1,000 a month on leads and convert it 10% than $2,000 a month on leads and convert it 2%.
Right.
It's basic and it's less work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, less chase, right? And then having some systems in the back end of the CRM to help automate those not ready buyers or sellers. And then you can
Yep.
work with the ones that are ready at the same time. Then that stops people from falling through the cracks. I talk to
Yep.
agents all the time that are doing high volume deals that are like, oh yeah, I just work on a spreadsheet. And it's like, do you know how much time you're spending on manual follow up and how many people you actually forget to follow up with that you don't realize you forgot to follow up with? Like you're probably leaving 6 figures a year or more in commissions on the table without having those systems put in place.
It's true. It can be scary, but there's that much money that you can be, leaving out just by that simple daily task of following up and having a proper CRM in place.
Yep. So with that being said, what CRM are you using right now?
Lofty, of course.
Lofty. Love to hear it, man. And, if anybody's watching this and they're on Zillow Flex as well, Zillow wants you to use Follow Up Boss, but Lofty integrates directly into Follow Up Boss. So anything that goes into Follow Up Boss from Zillow automatically goes over to Lofty, where you have way more control. You can get them onto your IDX website. You can text them through the CRM. You can follow up via the emails, newsletters, website behavioral automations, everything that's needed for those pieces of the puzzle to take a lot of that manual follow up off, where all you got to do is really just worry about the phone calls. So tell me if you do the same thing as I do, where when I'm on my CRM, I just hit my task list and look at who I need to call for the day, and everything else in the back end just pretty much handles itself.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a system in place where you know who to call, you know who to reach out to on a daily basis, or whatever your system is in place, and that's going to help you so much, because when you get to a certain number of people in your CRM and you don't have a system, it's basically impossible to remember exactly what you would have to do on a daily basis if it's not constructed properly.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And then if you do manage to stay up on top of it, well, now you've got, 6 to 8 hours worth of manual follow-up work you have to do every day, plus show a house, plus still handle the new leads coming in. And this is how we lose control of our time. And then we get the burnout and people leave the industry over it.
100%. Yeah. I think it's very important to have your CRM. And when you do daily consistency on there, you have it where you want it. So it's not such a menagerie of things going on.
Yeah. Good database hygiene is what I say. There's nothing worse than having 1,000 leads in your database and not having them all on an individual pathway. And you just kind of look at that and you feel overwhelmed. And then people don't want to use their CRM over it. And then they wonder why they're part of the 76% of real estate agents who haven't done a deal in 2025. It's hard.
Crazy. That's true. I agree with that.
Yeah, and you had said that you had a 15% conversion rate, which for those of you guys that don't know, that's huge. That's a really good conversion rate. Tell me more a little bit about what happens when somebody books a call, an appointment with you, whether that's in the office or whether that's over coffee or whether you're showing a house. Do you have a specific procedure that you follow to start building that rapport?
Yeah. So, right when we get the lead, we want to make sure that, I think the most important part is when you get the lead, make sure you establish a connection, some sort of connection with them, because you can't get a lead and then contact them even, a couple of days later. You don't have that rapport with them. So get that lead right off the start. Make sure you're warming up to them. And once you get the appointment, and you meet them, it just depends on their game plan. If they are, out a couple years, it's good to meet them. We're going to put them more on a nurture plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus if somebody wants to buy something in 3 to 6 months. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, whatever a client tells you, let's say they're looking a year out, cut that in half.
Right.
Put them at 6 months, for example. But from there on out, I target them at least weekly. If they're a nurture, that's going to be something where I target them about once a month.
Cool. And what's that look like when you're having those conversations? Like, do you do like, I remember Zillow used to do like LP Mama, and then you have the Ford technique. So do you use any of those techniques when you're building rapport, and kind of what's that process for you look like?
Yeah, so honestly, mine's a little bit sporadic because I take it per lead. I think everybody's different. But my biggest thing is I send my clients houses. Okay, that's my biggest thing. Is I'm going to send them houses. I'm going to ask them, hey, were there any new properties on the market that were interest? Anything I can do for you? Yada yada yada. And I know a lot of that is kind of basic, but I think it works because it keeps it in touch. Around where I'm at, there's not a ton of homes on the market. So something that I'll say a lot is, hey, John Smith, just wanted to let you know I scanned the market today. Nothing new in your criteria, but I'll be looking. That way it
Dude.
just creates that, hey, I'm looking, let's stay in touch. And then I always say, hey, if there's any properties that you see that you're interested in, please make sure you send them to me and we can always take a look, or I can answer any questions you have, you
Dude,
know?
yeah. Dude, I love that
So,
too. Because of the fact that a lot of people won't do that. They won't send that message out if there's nothing there. If they're even sending homes at all, a lot of them don't. They
yeah,
just rely on the lead to say when they want to go see a home, and that's the worst thing you could possibly do, So when
right,
you're like being proactive the way that you're doing, and you're hitting somebody up and you're like, hey man, went over the market today, nothing else came up new, just wanted to let you know, like they
right,
view that as, oh man, Landon's out there working for me. Like that's cool.
right,
He's on the ball. Like, so I can live my normal life that I have, outside of trying to do the biggest purchase of my life. Like, I think a lot of
right,
agents get an unrealistic expectation that like, oh, my buyer's going to buy a house, so that's going to be the most important thing to that person. And it's like, it is important to them, but they still have a job, they still have a
right,
family, they still have health, they still have all of these other things that go into factor, and they don't have time to jump on and look for houses every single day. And they could
no,
miss an opportunity in a low inventory environment like what you guys are experiencing right now in Northern Ohio.
yeah, very
So
well.
you being proactive like that, I think, is huge. So let's say you got John Smith on the line, you find a property, you send it over to him, you're like, hey, this property just popped up, meets your criteria, you want to go see it. You've never met him in person before. Now you guys are at the property, you're letting him in the door. Well, what's that conversation look like?
Yeah, so as soon as I meet them, we let them in the door. Obviously, we've already signed a buyer broker agreement. And a lot of properties around me, they're lower. Our average price point's 175,000, 200,000.
Wow.
So these aren't new construction homes. They're not glorious per se, and a lot of them have issues here and there. So one thing I said earlier is I am going to point out the good and the bad, and I think that is something that builds the most trust. And plus, I think a good, honest realtor wants to help a client out. The house sells itself. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna. We're not salesmen. As much as people say that, a good real estate agent really isn't a salesman as much as they are a tool and a vessel to get them to where they need to be. So when I'm showing them a house, I'm going to point out the age of the roof every time. I'm going to point out issues on the mechanicals, the age of the mechanicals, what I like, what I don't like about the property, and then I'm going to get their opinion. And at the end of my showing, and I think this is huge, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you love this property, you'd love to jump on it now, where does this property rank for you? And when they say, hey, I think it's a 6, okay, what do we need to do to make it a 10? And a very important part of that I learned is that's how they know that you're eager to learn what they want and you're eager to help them. So and it gives you the agent a better grasp on what we need to look for. You
Right.
know, if this property is 1,500 square feet and you need 2,000 plus square feet, well, we're not going to show you a 1,500 square foot property again, and we can gather that information from that simple question at the end.
Dude, love that. That's huge,
Mhm.
right? Because they just want to be heard. They
Yeah,
and that's the thing is I think a lot of times, and I was even a victim of this back in my early career where I'd go show a block of houses, we'd go look at, anywhere between like 3 and 5 houses. And at the end of the day, I'm like, great. Did you like any of them? Like, did you want to make an offer? And they're like, nah, let's keep looking. And then I would
yeah,
stop it at that. And then I would just start sending more houses, but I was failing because I wasn't diving deeper, right?
Yeah.
Like I at the end of every showing now, I'll do the same thing where it's like, hey, all right. And I usually don't do a 1 out of 10, so I like that. I'll probably steal that from you. But I'll usually be like, all right, so compared to the first house, what one do you like better and why?
Yeah.
Right? And then that's where we can get some of those really good golden nuggets of what it is that they actually want. Because one thing I've learned, I've only been doing this for 8 years now, 8.5 years, but the reality is that what they say they want and what they actually need are two different things.
I agree. Yeah, and sometimes they just don't know what they want yet, you
Yeah.
know. So that is definitely true.
Yep. Yep, I couldn't tell you how many times I've been at an end of a showing block with a client and had them say, yeah, this house would be perfect, but the one thing that I don't like was, oh, maybe the location of the kitchen island, or I've had people be like, yeah, I just don't really like that wall right where it is, and it's like, well, that like I have a vendor list, so if just this wall being in the way, and I have a little bit of contracting experience, used to be a general contractor, I could let them know, hey, this is not a load-bearing wall, so this can be removed. And they're like, oh, I could remove that? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. And, you could probably have the wall removed for under $5,000. It's a non-load-bearing wall, so we don't have to micro-lam it and put a supporting beam up. You can just pull this wall out. We redo a little bit of the floor here. You paint where the other stud met up against the wall, and next thing you know, you're in. And they're like, oh, well, we've got money for that. So now all of a sudden it's like, maybe this is the house. So
Right.
it's little things that can be the deciding factor on whether or not they even want to put an offer in.
Sometimes they just need educated on some matters, you know. And every transaction, every appointment that I go to, a lot of times I'm not really thinking about closing on a house. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I'm really just focusing on listening to the client and building a relationship with them, because eventually they're going to buy a house, and I don't really care what time frame, as long as I just stay in touch with them. Whether that's, today, tomorrow, a year down the road, 5 years down the road, my goal is just to stay in touch.
Love it, dude. Love it. None of this date the rate, marry the house crap, or, buy before spring hits because that's when the market gets busy. Like,
Yeah.
that's bad advice that has been taught in this real estate industry for many, many years. And same thing. I tell my clients, I'm like, hey, look, I'm not a salesman. I'm not here to sell you anything. My job's to educate and inform you about the process,
Yeah.
so that way you can make good decisions. And if they're not ready now and they're ready in 5 years down the road, I say, great. I'm not going anywhere. So
Right.
I'll be here when you're ready. And in the meantime, let me educate you on this process. So as you get closer to becoming ready, you're going to be more confident in what this process looks like, so you can make
Yeah.
better decisions.
Yes. And I filmed two videos. I videoed myself and Loom doing a listing video and then a purchasing video. And
Nice.
what my purchasing video is it's just basically explaining to them, I'm here for you. And once again, whether that's today, tomorrow, or a year down the road from now, I want to help you. And that's my goal, is just to stay in touch. Because everybody has a different situation.
Yep.
Some people, it might be better to wait till spring, but it just depends on their situation. And we're going to find that out, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah. 100%, dude. That's one of the things that, when I've had some buyers ask me, like, when should I buy a house? I can buy a house at any time, but if you were to buy a house right now, when would you do it? And it could be the beginning of the year, right? Like, it could be January 1st, and I'm having a conversation with a buyer who's like, I'm ready to go anytime, Adam. But if you were buying a house right now, when would you do it? And most real estate agents would be like, right now. Right now, I'd go right now, because you don't know what property values are going to do. They could increase. On average, they do. But they fail to recognize that a lot of the times it's not the interest rate and it's not the money. It's the familial situation. If it is money, then, I tell them, like, hey, if I was going to buy a house this year, I'd be doing it near Christmas. Oh, well,
Yeah.
why is that, Adam? Because the market's less competitive. You get more opportunities. Sellers are usually ready to flex a little bit more, and we might be able to get you a better deal. So if
Yeah.
you're ready to go whenever, I can sell you a house whenever you want. But if it was me, I'd wait till the season dies down a little bit and strike while the iron's hot.
That's exactly what I say. I tell them my favorite season is around here, November to February.
Yep.
You got Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then January and February it's just cold as crap, you know. So that's what I say. But and there's some families where they just don't want to move when it's cold. And so, okay, maybe springtime is your time. Maybe you got a family and you have kids in school. Maybe spring and summer is your time. So I think it just depends on what they're motivated to do. If it's me personally, I'm more of a money motivated person. So I'd rather buy a house at a good deal. That's why I'm actually buying another house. I just went under contract 2 days ago.
Nice.
So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But I think, everybody has that different situation, and we just have to cater it to them.
Yeah. And that's our jobs to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Not to just assume that they need to go based on whatever the market's doing or based on what you want. That's where that commission breath comes in, right? Like if I were to go into as an uneducated buyer and a realtor and their answer to everything was you need to buy right now, then that's the commission breath we're talking about, right? That's where it's like, well, he only wants me to buy right now so he can go cash that check. But when you take them into a showing on a first house and you point out the fact that, hey, you know what? I noticed that this roof doesn't have drip edging. Did you know that drip edging became a standardized part of roofing back in like 2013 or 2014? So when I don't see drip edging on the roof right there, I can tell you right now, this roof's probably over 20 years old. Right. So that could be an issue. And they're like, oh, crap, like this guy's not just coming in all HGTV style being like, oh, look at the beautiful foyer and look at this stuff.
Yeah, that's so cliche. That's what people think, most realtors do. And I think a lot of realtors still do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of my first showings that I go to, I'm going to tell them, if I were you, I wouldn't buy this house. Obviously, you can make whatever decision you'd like to, but in my opinion, I can find you better.
Yeah, 100%.
I say that all. So
Yep.
that I think is a very important part. And I think a lot of realtors do well when it comes to getting to the appointment, but their struggle is, that back end of, getting the lead and converting that lead into an appointment. They're fine at the showing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you say that you're not hesitant on not trashing a house, right? But just being upfront and honest with your clients about it. When we go into a showing, and I don't know if you do the same thing, but I'm usually like, I'll walk them through the door and I'll be like, hey guys, go ahead and start taking a look around. I'm going to head into the basement or to the mechanical room and I'm going to go check out some of the guts. I want you guys to look at all the cosmetic things and all the things that you guys like. But with my past experience being a general contractor, I want to go kind of look a little bit at the guts of the house. I'm not your inspector. We're obviously going to have an inspection. But if I can see something on my end that could avoid us going under contract and you spending $700 for an inspection just to find out that something was there that I could have seen, I want to avoid that. So I'm going to head this direction. You can follow me if you want, or you guys can just go explore. We'll meet back up in the middle. I'll let you know what I found and I can walk you through some stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And it also is signifying to them, I'm looking out for you, because you are. Yeah. And I've had a lot of clients who have wasted money on appraisals and inspections, and that house wouldn't even pass FHA, and you're somehow past inspections and appraisal process. I don't know why sometimes people get in those situations, and you can prevent it, up front.
Yeah, well, I think the reality is that not all realtors are created equal, right? There's so many times where realtors, I've talked to them and they're like, well, I just put FHA VA on the listing just because I don't want to limit the showings. And then I'll get one of my clients send me a house and I pull it up. And the first thing I notice is there's no handrails, like there's missing tile. The basement's not even like it's finished, but there's like exposed wiring and exposed plumbing. Shower's not completely finished. Like stuff that is clearly not going to let this go VA or FHA. And I'll tell them like, hey, thanks. I see the house here that you wanted to go see. You're on a VA loan, but look at what I've noticed here. Now, it's not that they won't be willing to make the repairs to go fix this to make it VA presentable, but just FYI, as the property sits right now, like this isn't going to qualify for what you need. You still want to go take a look at it?
Right. Yep. Another thing that I've done that a lot of people disagree with, and you might even disagree with, I'm not sure, but my old broker always taught me, give them one free lunch. So when I say that, I usually don't require a pre-approval on the first showing a lot of times because I want to meet these clients. And a lot of times, I can't tell you how many deals I have closed by doing that. I can't
Yes.
tell you how many clients I've met. They never bought a property from me, but their cousin did.
Uh-huh.
I can't tell you how many times that's happened. And I've had some really cool stories where they said, "Thank you so much for just giving us your time just to meet you." And then they want to get a pre-approval.
Yeah.
So that's also something I learned is give them one free lunch, especially if you're working with online leads. I think that's something very important because
Yeah.
otherwise, if you have, like you said, 5 realtors on the back end, somebody's going to show them without a pre-approval, and they're going to go to that. They're going to go to that agent. So just get to the appointment however you have to, and get to your funnel.
Yeah.
Appointment, showings, offers.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And it's actually funny because we were up at UWM last week, and Jeremy was talking about that as well. For the record, I operate on the same way. I'm like, look, dude, this is probably a really bad reference, but I grew up back in the 90s. We were listening to hip hop, and, a lot of that stuff was like the first hit's free. You know what I mean? To get them hooked in. And this is the same thing in real estate. Like, if you're one of those realtors right now that's out there that's like, I will not show a property unless they're pre-approved. Well, I want you to put yourself in the position of a buyer and think about if you were just starting the process of purchasing, of wanting to buy your own home, and you get a realtor on the line, the most thing you're excited about is getting out there to see the process, to meet your realtor, and your realtor fires away a text or a call or an email that says, hey, I'd love to show you this property, but you need to call a lender and give them all your financial information and get pre-approved first. They're like, no way. There's so many scammers out there right now that I think 90% of people that do that, these leads leave them because they're like, I don't know this person. I don't even know if they're real. The last thing I'm going to do is click a link they send me and put my social security number into it.
Right. And they say, and I hear this all the time, I just want to see the house.
That's it.
That's what I hear. So, people, and I've tried both. I've tried, getting people pre-approved beforehand, and I've done both sides. And I'll just tell you right now, save your time, meet the person at the property, and you can have multiple different effects from that.
Yep. Unpopular opinion. I'm not just meeting the buyer so they can build rapport with me. I'm meeting the buyer to see if I want to even hang out with them for the next couple months.
Yeah. It's true.
Especially getting with the volume that you're at right now, like I'm sure you're at a situation where you go to meet a buyer and they're less than pleasant to be around. You might just shake their hand at the end of that showing and say, best of luck, dude.
Yeah, that's sometimes when it's good to have a newly licensed agent on your team and say, hey, do you want to tackle this one? My brother Quinn. But yeah, it's definitely good to meet them. They can.
Poor Quinn. He gets all the problem clients from you and John, huh?
He can, but hey, he's doing good. But yeah, I mean, how many conversations are you having a day?
Yeah.
How many people are you meeting? And it's a lot of people say it, but it's all basic math. It
really is. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game in the end. So, dude, this is dope, man. I've had super fun jamming out with you. I'm so excited for your future, man. Like, you came in here, you crushed it. 68 deals since January. You still got a month left. I know you've got a list under contract, too. So, you're going to more than likely remain number one. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see you topping out Ohio statewide for eXp Realty. This is insane. So, doing 68 deals in a year, I think a lot of people are thinking, like, how does this dude have any time? But I think the reality is that you're pretty efficient in the way that you do this because you do have time. You got married. You went on a honeymoon. You guys went to Hawaii, right? Yeah. You come back. Within a week of being back, you're in Miami. We're hanging out. You're buying a house. You're fixing houses. You're doing all this other stuff. So if you had like the top 3 pieces of advice for somebody that's looking to do high volume real estate and how they can stay organized better, what would that be?
Yeah, so keep it simple, figure out what works, and then hone into what works, right? A lot of people say, figure that 5 things out and put 80% of your time into that one item that works. So I think that's something that's super important because you're going to save all that time. So keep it simple. Always follow up. That's the goal. That's what we've been talking about for the last hour. Always follow up and make true long-lasting relationships with people. Focus on the relationship and the money will come.
Dude, love it, man. Love it. All right. So before we wrap this up, I want to talk just a little bit about kind of what your experience has been so far inside of EXP, the Wolfpack, and Carbon
Yeah.
Collective. Because I think that what we have here is pretty special. I know you did a couple of different brokerages. Everybody knows I've done 10 brokerages in 8 years. And
Yeah.
this is kind of something that's beyond what I've ever experienced. And, you know, you're relatively, you've been with us now for about 11 months, a little under
Yep.
11 months. And throughout that process, like, how would you describe to somebody that might be thinking, like, "Hey, my brokerage isn't doing this stuff. I don't feel like I'm getting this level of not so much mentorship, but support and training." What are your feelings towards being with Carbon Collective over the last 11 months or so?
Yeah. So it's super easy to switch brokerages and switch to EXP. It was very simple, you know, and there's so much information in the Carbon Collective and Wolfpack that you can really, really have a much higher personal development than anywhere else. I sold 107 houses in a year and I still moved out of my brokerage, right? So, when we have Adam leading AI and he has so much information that you can learn just from Adam. And then you have Jeremy Kane teaching you Sphere, and you have Louie, and you have Mike and Connor. Just learning from those people alone in our group, I think it makes it very special. And going to EXPCon, the way they treated me when I first met them in person, they're trying to grow a family. So I think it's something that is different. I don't think there's anything else out there like what we're seeing here in Carbon Collective and the Wolfpack, and I think it's very special.
Dude, love it. I agree. I feel the exact same way. It's been life changing for me as well. I'll be going on 3 years this April, and I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. It's like a family, like you said, you know. And it was great to be able to hang out with you at EXPCon. I know we've been talking back and forth for a while, but that was the first time we had an opportunity to meet in person.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's wild because even though we're a virtual brokerage and 90% of what we do is on Zoom with each other, like when we met in person, it felt like I had already known you for years, you know?
right.
And there was it wasn't like that awkwardness, you know. There's no competitive nature in the back end, like, you know, we're all sharing everything kind of like we're
That's
doing on
one of
this
my
call.
favorite things. That's one of my favorite things is you want to help me grow. I want to help my team grow, and we are actually on a team. There's no withholding information here or there because I've been there. I
Yeah.
know what that's like. And so when everybody can kind of just share what they've learned together, I think it's super cool.
Yeah, and it's almost unheard of in this industry. So yeah, if you guys are watching this podcast today and you're thinking like, "Dang, how do I get that kind of support?" Well, the answer is clear. Like, you need to hit up Landon or myself. We can give you guys a 2-week free trial, so 14 days worth of a free Carbon Collective trial. We'll let you jump on our calls. You can see how our group collaborates, the kind of training and atmosphere that we have, and see if this is a good fit for you. Not a lot of companies will offer this, but what we have in here is real, and we fully believe in it. And most of the people that jump in here and just to test the waters end up diving in head first once they see what we've really got going on. So if you are one of those people right now, or one of those agents right now that are thinking like maybe grass is greener on the other side, I can tell you what, it is over here. So just click the link in the description below, and you can book a call with me. We can get you set up on that 14-day free trial. I'm also going to make sure that I link Landon's information in there because this guy does way more real estate than I do. You guys know I'm mostly a coach now. So if you want to get to a level like Landon's at, like, I'm sure he'd be willing to jam out with you. So yeah, before we wrap this up, Landon, tell the people where they can find you. I know you're starting your YouTube channel, but you're on Facebook, you're on Insta. So just let some people know how they can find you. And let's end this thing off with a bang, dude.
Yeah, look me up on my name's Landen Bar, so feel free to look us up. We've got a team. We'd love for you guys to join. And my last thing I want to say is don't wait. Start now. Build the plane while it's flying. A lot of people, have these excuses that they just want to wait, but the time is now. So that's what I just suggest. Go for it.
Perfect, dude. Love it. Way to end this one off on a bang. Landon, thank you so much for jamming out with me today. We're going to have you on soon. And then when it warms up in the freezing ass area that you're out, I'm going to have to come out there and see you guys hang out. I know you guys are Northern Ohio, so you're sitting right on the edge of Lake Erie, right?
Yeah. Oh,
dude,
yeah.
Love it, man. I haven't been there since like 2010. I was on a tour. We were heading over the northeastern United States, and we played Geneva on the Lake. I don't know if you've ever been over there, but
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it's like a whole strip of bars right on the boardwalk by the lake, dude, and you could just kind of bounce back and forth, and there's all these bands playing. I had so much fun, so we'll have to go do some lake days in the summer, but yeah, man, always fun jamming out with you, dude. I'm super proud of you, brother, man. 68 deals, #1 agent, new agent in the USA at EXP, and soon to be the #1 agent in all of Ohio. Couldn't be more proud of you, brother. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate you.
Right on. Yo, now if you didn't feel that one in your soul, you might just be dead inside. Landen Bar just dropped absolute fire. 22 years old and moving like a damn veteran in this industry. That's the new wave right there. Now look, if you're still sitting around trying to figure out where to start with AI, CRMs, lead conversion, social, or even just dialing in your time, stop overthinking it. You don't have to do this stuff alone. Just join us over at Carbon Collective. When you link up with us, you get the #1 social media training in real estate from Mike Sherrard. You get the #1 system and process mastery from Louis Galt. You get the best organic lead domination from Jeremy Kane. And yeah, you already know, you get Agent Prompt University and Apex Elite AI with yours truly. This is over 5 weekly mastermind calls and over 3,700 agents across 26 countries and 0 BS. And here's the best part, guys. It's all free when you partner with us. So if you want the blueprint, drop Carbon in the comments or hit the link in the pinned comment to book a call with me and Landon, and let's get at it. And if you guys got value from this video, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these awesome podcasts and AI and CRM updates. I'll see you guys on the next one.